Greetings, I'm Barrett and welcome to Meet Me at the Table. Today we're going to be doing a playthrough and showcase of Terminus Frontier. This is going to be something new coming to crowdfunding. I want to show you everything this game has to offer to see if this is something you might be interested in. Terminus Frontier is going to be a scenario-based campaign, dungeon crawling adventure game set in outer space, which is going to be super cool. So I'm excited to show everything that has to do with this game. And if you're excited to see and learn about Terminus Frontier, then I need you to meet me at the table. In this playthrough, we're going to be going through Scenario 1, The Hunt. There are different types of scenarios. Now, I'm not sure how many of each of these you're going to see while you play through the campaign, but there's bounty hunts, there's going to be boss battles, there's going to be stealth missions, there's going to be rescue missions. There's all different types of missions in this game. So it's not just the same thing over and over when it comes to what you're going to be doing to complete your particular mission. In this game, you're going to be playing 1 to 4 players. You'll be taking on the role of drift hunters. This game can also be played true solo, and I'll explain a little bit about that near the end of the video. But what we're going to be playing as is we're going to be playing as if this was a 2-player game. We're going to be taking on 2 complete roles of these drift hunters. And when we set up our game, we're going to be able to position our drift hunters in one of these particular spots depending on how many you play. Of course, if you're playing with all 4, you're going to use all 4 spots. But if you're playing with less, you can choose the spots you want to be in. While you play through this game, you're going to be reading through your campaign book, and also there's going to be an exploration book that goes along with it. On top of that, this game can be played in one-shots, as you can see right down here. It'll show if you have any type of starting bonuses going through it because it may be a more difficult mission based on where it would have been normally found inside the campaign or outside the campaign if it's something that you're wanting to try. Now, as we move forward through the setup and the playing of this game, I do want to mention that this, of course, is a prototype, so everything that you see in the game and the rules and all the characters and the components are all going to be subject to change as this goes through crowdfunding and the development of the game. In this particular mission, it could be up to about 2 hours, as it says here. Our orbital imaging of the hot zone shows multiple armed combatants. We are going to prepare to come in weapons hot. What this is going to do is tell us how to set up our AI deck, how to set up what is in the AI deck. I should say this is going to be the map setup here. So there are going to be 4 different tiles that we're going to be placing out here. And like I said before, it'll show us if there's anything for a one-shot mode. On top of that, it's going to show us the colors of the enemies and where they're going to be positioned and any special things that have to do with this mission. For this particular mission, these special things will be these 3 colonists. They'll be part of this mission. The other things you see set up here these are going to be obstacles that we can use for cover as we go through. These are buildings that we can move up on top of. There's a door here we may have to go into. There's a couple of our item crates here that we can open up, and these I believe are going to be spawn points, but they could be something different depending on what exactly the mission is. We'll be digging into a little bit more what the mission is in just a second. I just want to show you the board presence that this has. It does use 3D terrain. These are all made out of cardboard at the time. These might change as we go forward through the crowdfunding campaign and the development of this game. That may change, so just remember that. We do have some of miniatures here that we can use. They're also, I believe, going to be standees for the player characters if you wish to use them. I'm kind of giving you a glimpse as to the couple of the characters we're going to be using here. Like I said, we'll be using 2. Out here, we do see our enemies. They're going to be looking in our standees like this. They're going to be placed down there. We also have 3 colonists just like we had before. Here's our item crates right here, and that door back there we have to get to. So I do really like the presence that this game has on the table, having all this cool 3D terrain out here and being able to use it for this game. These are going to provide cover, and you'll see how that works during the game. So it's not just in the way and moving around it. It actually provides a bonus for you if you're able to be near it. Let's switch over to look at our characters really quick before we continue setting up our scenario, because this is kind of the cool part. Look at these guys. These are all awesome. There are so many cool things going on here. I'm going to talk about all of this. The first character we are going to play as is the Maverick. This is our gunslinging renegade character. It's going to be super cool. Running around with 2 little pistols is going to be super cool. The starting gear is her 2 Falcon R2 pistols. Super awesome. It gives you an idea of kind of what to expect with your character up here. So lots of mobility and a good amount of offense and some control. It has a small background little blurb here, but I'm not going to read that. If you want to read it, you can pause the video if you want to, but when you get the game, you can check out those different backgrounds of the characters. It gives you an idea of what the combat style is. For this one, it is swift and deadly mid-range combatant, able to make numerous pistol shots in a single turn. The Maverick can lay waste to squads of lightly armored enemies. Hopefully that's what we are fighting. The complexity for this character is moderate. Now, if you notice down here, it has your skill paths, which are kind of like the roles of the character. That is going to be the type of cards that are in this deck, which are going to be your action deck that you can use to do different actions in the game. Of course, we'll go through all those types of things as we actually get into the game. But do notice on the bottom of these cards, it shows you what the where these different roles are coming from. And as you gain experience and move through the game and through the campaign, you can choose the more paths you want to go to. If you want to make this a more roguey character, you could probably gain cards that have to do with that. Or if you want to be more of a high velocity type character where you push your body to the limits and get the drop on your opponents, that might be something you want to do forward with this particular character. But so it is kind of cool that you can branch out and make these characters a little different depending on your play style. So we're going to flip this over, and on the other side here, it's going to have everything we need to play our game. It has our stats for our characters. It shows right here that we have 1 health in our head, so let's not get hit there. We have 2 in the arms. We're just going to put these blue cubes here to represent how much we have. 2 in the legs and 6 in the chest. Now, if you take damage in your head, body, head, legs, or arm area, and it goes to 0, you're going to gain what's called a minor trauma, but you do still get to fight. The one you do not want to lose is if you lose all your health in your chest, you're going to have to take a severe trauma card, and that potentially could knock you out of the game, or you might get lucky and it may not. Now, of course, we have our 2 weapons equipped right here, and each weapon does come with its own ammo deck, which is super cool. The way this works is when you fire your weapon, say you want to fire with either a pulse or a burst. If you go with the pulse, you're going to flip over 1 card, and that's the damage you're going to deal, depending on what is over on this card. If you go in burst, you're going to flip over 2 cards, and then you're going to discard 1. Now, of course, this deck is a finite deck. Once this deck is out, you have to spend some time reloading, or have an ability that gets you to be able to reload it for free. And being the Maverick, I'm sure there's something in here that's going to help us get these guns reloaded rather fast, because there's not a lot of bullets in these guns. There's only 6 different cards in here, ammo cards, and each one of these ammo cards is different. They are going to have either like 1 hit on them, a miss on them. You could have a direct hit, you could have 2 hits, 3 hits, and then there's even one based on the type of weapon attack you decide to do. So for example, if we decide to do a burst with this gun, we wouldn't be able to take advantage of what the pulse is up here. So depending on what type of attack you do could change what is going to be in this cards. As you go forward, these decks may change based on weapons that you get. So just be aware that you might, again, be able to change your playstyle based on the type of weapons you're able to get as well. Each character does come with a mantra card, and as we go forward, we are going to gain resolve as we play through the mission, and then we can spend that resolve to take advantage of these particular actions. You can redirect, you can think fast, you can kill shot, or you could spend all 4 to play a ability called Aces High. It's the ultimate. You're able to reload, you're able to move 3 with flight, you're able to pulse or burst with +1 damage, and you're able to inflict jam on your enemy, which means their weapons aren't going to work very well. So, and that's like a super attack that you can do. That's absolutely amazing. So everybody has like these types of abilities, including everybody does have an ultimate, which is something you might want to try to build up to. On the bottom, we have our gear slots. We can have up to 3 gear. And as you can see, these are indented because we could even get potentially some armor or for our head, hands, feet, or body to protect ourselves. And then we can also give ourselves different stances, a mindset and a body type stance. And those are going to be permanent cards that are laid out that are found inside this deck. And you can change those out as you go forward if you decide that stance no longer is going to be able to benefit you. Of course, you can only have 1, I believe, of each of these going at any one time. So if you do want to put another stance out that is going to be here, you would have to discard the one that is already up there. So there we have our Maverick. Let's quickly move over to our other character and take a look at him. The other character we're going to be controlling as a drift hunter is going to be the Vanguard. Of course, what this character can do is a little bit different from the Maverick. It does have some defense and support, where it's not very mobile and it doesn't have much control compared to the Maverick. The weapons it has is an M42 Redeemer and a mono sword X12, which is found right up here. Again, more of background and a different combat style. It's a well-rounded fighter, able to dispatch enemies at a distance with a pulse rifle, but can also duel foes up close using its mono sword. A natural leader, the Vanguard can also issue commands to his squad, granting them additional actions and boosting their combat potential. So hopefully it can activate our Maverick a little bit more, who's more built on offense and can push out more damage. The complexity of this character is low, which is going to be good. These are the, again, different ammo cards we have for our two different weapons, and these two are going to be unique to these types of weapons. The pistol has a totally different set of ammo cards to the melee sword and the pulse rifle. So just bear in mind, as you see some of these cards, be like, wait, that wasn't in the other deck, because these are going to be different. On top of that, the skill path for this particular character is Commander, Iron Legion, and Guardian. It can fight up close and personal. It can relieve the soldier's path as an ultimate frontier troop. It can also control the battlefield and give actions to my squads. And like the other character, there are usually, I think, about 4 of each of those type of cards in here. But going forward, you can adjust that, I believe, through all the different experience and things you learn through the campaign. It has a mantra card, just like our Maverick down here. Again, can redirect. This one now is different. It can rally an overshield, which is going to help, I believe. This will help a squad mate, and this, I believe, will help a squad mate as well, prevent damage from coming in. And its ultimate here, it can reload its weapon and then burst with extra damage. It can do 2 attacks, so it's going to be super good. It is going to be the commander of here, so this person will command our group here. And again, this weapon is different from our pistol. Notice it can do a pulse, a burst, which discards 1 card, or full auto. We're going to draw 3 cards, 1, 2, 3, and then you're going to discard 2, leaving only 2 bullets in there. Now, if you ever did like a burst and there was only 2 cards left in your deck, you would still draw the 2, but you wouldn't discard 1, because there isn't one to discard. So you're still going to complete the action of actually attacking, even though you don't have all that you're going to need to be able to do that. Let's quickly turn our character over and fill in all of our stats. Everything he has is the same as the Maverick when it comes to the different places to place things, except he's going to have a few better stats here. He's got 2 to the arms, 2 to the legs, 2 to the head, and he's got 7 to the body, so he is a little bit more protected. Now, he only has 3 speed right here, as you can see. Our Maverick had 4, I failed to mention that, and he has a hand size of 5, and maybe as the head gets damaged, he might get some traumas that are going to prevent this, or he might get some equipment in here that's going to be able to help him get more of those. Similar to the Maverick, here is the miniature for the Vanguard. I think if these are what the sculpts are going to look like, this is going to be super cool. These guys look really neat. I like how cool they look out on the board. Now, of course, I do also like the fact that the enemies are all coming in as standees, which is going to be a lot easier to get this game painted and put to the table when you have standees as your enemies. Now let's move into the rest of the setup here. These guys are super cool. These heroes are going to be amazing. I'm excited to march them out into battle and take on the bad guys. Our objective is to locate and defeat the Butcher before he escapes. We have to minimize civilian casualties if possible. Now, I did mention earlier that there are going to be a unique group of people on the board called colonists that are going to we're going to have to deal with here. It does say place the colonist tokens on 3 when it comes to the threat of the board, and I'll show you this in just a moment when we continue our setup. And it says the enemies will attack the colonists if they have the highest threat. To prevent hostage casualties, make sure you keep the threat value higher than the colonist value of 3. The colonists will not move unless ordered with a standard action, and do not place the gray squad activation token listed on the crisis deck cards. So again, this will become a little bit more clear once we start playing the game, but I have placed out our colonists onto our threat track, which I will show you soon. The units for this game are going to be Scrapper Raiders, the Butcher, and then the Colonists as well. This shows you the levels, so this person is obviously going to be a lot more powerful than his little cronies that are with him, which are the Scrapper Raiders. So we'll hopefully be able to take him down. The characters out there are depicted with standees, but going forward, you will have the option of using miniatures as well, from what I understand. So I know previously I said it comes with standees. It probably is also going to be coming with miniatures, so do know you will have some options going forward in this game. Now, as you can see on the board, it has a 3 and a 4 player here. Now, we're only playing 2 players, but if we were playing with 3 or 4, we would place extra enemies out here to help with the balance of the game. But since we're only playing with 2 players, we're going to have 4 of those scrappers out there. And like I said, we can choose where we want to be positioned on the board when we decide to put our characters out. Your squad is landing from the drop deployment. Use the recommended deployment locations indicated by the above diagram. If you do not wish to follow the recommended setup, you may instead deploy your miniatures anywhere on the battlefield. So I'll show you shortly, which was super short because the power of editing. It shows you where you would put particular characters for this. I actually have put our rogue character right down there, the Maverick, in this particular place, but instead of putting the Vanguard here, I've decided to place the Vanguard there instead. If we did have the other characters that we could play with, I'd be able to put all 4 of those in the locations we think. But of course, I could mix them up if I decide I have a better tactic going forward. And in this prototype, I do have 4 different characters, and near the end of the video, I'll show you a little bit more about the other 2 characters so you can get a feel for what those characters are kind of like. Also, if you are playing true solo, you only do have to control one of these as a full character, and they do have a solo mode for the other characters where they can become crewmates, and again, I'll explain that at the end of the video as well. Here is our scenario intro. Your team leaps out of your ship. Arid gas clouds and dust hurtle past you as you plummet towards the planet's surface. Flashes of small arms fire light up the ramshackle building below. As you close in on the settlement, your squad activates their gravity packs, slowing your descent. Soon, energy blasts are whizzing past you as the scrappers open fire on your squad. Over the comm link, Gravis shouts, "Enemy contact! All units prepare to engage and track down the Butcher!" And at this point, we will start the scenario. Here are the scrappers. This is the enemy dashboard. You're able to grab the squad color for whatever enemies you are going to be using. These particular scrapper raiders are going to be considered a yellow squad. So anything that has to do with a yellow squad, it will activate them. You have this cool little board here, which you just slide right in with their enemy card. So you can just have anything slide in here. It tells you how many health they have down here. So I've set all 4 of our raiders at 8. Now you can do this in multiple ways. You could start with nothing and go up to 8. You could fill up these as you go to make it cool because you're filling these up. But I'm just going to be counting these down. That is going to be how I'm going to do the enemy health in this game. Over here, it shows the different types of activations that these particular enemies can do. The top one is going to be more of a weapon attack where the enemy is trying to use maybe basic shooting or maybe a close combat weapon it has. The next one is going to be like a rush attack where enemies are going to use mobility and things to try to get closer. The third one is more of a special signature type attack that this particular type of enemy might be specializing in. The bottom one is deadly. The enemy uses the most fiercest attacks possible. Now these are going to show up on our different enemy AI cards that we're going to see, and it'll denote a particular symbol as to what that enemy is going to do on its turn. For example, if it decides to do the top one, this shows up on one of the AI cards, it is going to attack, and notice there are different colored decks here. There's yellow, blue, and purple and red decks. These are going to show the different types of attack that they're going to use. So this yellow one up here, for example, it would draw from one of the light fire decks, and that's the kind of damage it's going to do, and it's going to show where it's going to try to hit you, and you'll see how that goes as we start playing through the game. So just be aware that these are the type of actions that these characters are going to do depending on what their AI card says. Down here it does show its movement, so if they do have to move, this is the amount of movement that they can use. And each enemy is going to be played differently as we go through the game. So this is the basic scrapper raider guy. Of course, we do have the Butcher. He is just directly below. I'm not going to show that card until we get to him. Then we'll see how he is going to perform. It's going to be super cool. I can hardly wait. The colonists also do have a board themselves. They are going to have 4 health and 3 movement. They're going to have one similar to the squad. Instead of yellow, though, they are going to be using the dark gray board for their particular activations and where they're going to track their health. As you notice, they do nothing. They do absolutely nothing. It says innocent bystander colonists do not activate normally. Players can instead move a colonist using the orders standard action. And again, I'll go over what the different actions that our characters can perform on their turn when it comes to that time. But since they don't really do anything, I am going to have this board with them kind of off to the side, and I'll only show it when they actually take damage. Next, we have all our decks of cards. This is going to be our AI deck that we are going to control. The setup tells you what cards are in here, and it could be a set of cards starting at the top going to the bottom, or it could be a random set of events depending on what the scenario is able to provide. For this particular scenario, this is a set deck starting at the top going to the bottom. Usually if you run out of cards in this particular deck, that usually signals the end of the mission, and it's going to result in most likely failure. These are the different types of attack decks that the enemy is going to use. Like I said, if it decided to attack with a light attack, you just flip over this card, I'll show you one, and you're going to do what it says here. It's going to show you where it hits, and it's going to show you what type of damage it's going to do. And then you'll discard that card, and you will draw, and then you'll move on to the next enemy, and he'll draw one card, and so on and so forth moving forward. Now, of course, you can use your heroes to try to hopefully prevent some of this damage by you having armor or different reaction cards or defense cards inside their deck that is going to give them the ability to stop some of this incoming damage, because there's a lot of it, because there's a lot of guys on the board. Like I said, they can either attack with light fire, melee, or even heavy fire, and of course those are going to be really bad. These are the type of item decks we're going to be drawing from if we get some. There are a couple of these out on the board. I don't know how many of the contraband advanced cards or legendary cards we're going to see. I'm going to guess we're not going to see any legendary. We might see a contraband gear and advanced card. Well, we'll see how it goes. If not, I'll show you some of these at the end of the game so you can see what some of them are. The other two cards we have are going to be cards that are not going to be good for us, that we might get inside of our decks going forward. One of them is the arm strain card, and you're going to add this to your ammo decks for certain things. The other one we're going to have is going to be these suppression cards. These are going to gum up your hand and not be able to hold as many cards, and are going to be potentially detrimental based on some of your attacks. The Watcher deck is a specific card that you're going to get depending on what type of squad formation you decide to do, and I'll show you that right here. This thing is amazing. This is super cool to this game. I am a big fan of this system right here. This is not only going to tell us what order we're going to go in, how many action points we're going to have, where our target is going to be, who our target's going to be, things that pretty much covers everything you're going to need to know. At the beginning of our turn, we are going to choose a squad formation for each of our characters. Once we do that, we are going to take our token and place it there. You can have multiple people on the different types of squad formations. So if I wanted both of mine to be primary gunners, I could put them both there. Or I could have one person be on point and the other person be like the Watcher. Like I said, the Watcher has a unique symbol right here, which means that that character is then going to gain this card that they'll have for the turn and discard it at the end, that they could perform this action if they wish to, because they are a Watcher. They're able to have an extra little, they're kind of farther down the line, but that's because they're kind of watching the battle unfold around them and then be able to react to it. The other thing we have on this board is, as you see, there's +1s, +2s, and +3s. Those are the amount of threats you're going to get based on where you place your particular token and what type of squad formation you want. The squad formation itself also gives bonuses to certain things. So if you wanted to flank, not only do you gain 2 of the threat, you're going to get 2 action points, and you're going to get a free 2 movement if you wish to use it. And in this game, you can move in any direction you want, orthogonally or diagonally. So you do have multiple ways of moving around this board. And if I decide to place my character there when it came to this particular turn, I would then be able to move 2 spaces and perform my 2 actions. If you move down 1, this one gives you 3 actions, and it gives you 2 threat. Now, as you gain threat, you're going to move up this track, and you're going to slowly move up this track. You're going to lose threat by the enemy attacking you, because it's going to think it's doing things to you, and it's not going to think you're much of a threat because it's injured you and hurt you and things of that nature. But also notice these little bubbles here. As you move up these tracks, you are going to gain these tokens, and these are called resolve tokens. And the resolve tokens are what you're going to use in order to activate your mantras. So the more threats you get, the more you're going to gain gain these types of, or these resolve tokens. Now, of course, the more threats you get, the more the enemies are going to want to attack you. So it has such a cool system of how you're supposed to balance, like getting these mantras, deciding when you want to go in the round, wanting to get threat, not wanting to get threat, even, and if you get all the way to the top, not only do you have the most threat that you can get, you're also going to gain tokens that are going to help you out. But again, at the top, you're going to be more targeted and you might fall in battle. So this is a really cool system. I really enjoy how this works. The colonists are already on 3. They don't get any mantra, and we start at 0 threat. So when we start our particular game, the first thing we're going to have to do is choose our squad formation. The cool thing, again, about this, so many cool things about this, is the enemies are going to be decided of where they're going to go based on their enemy AI card. And they're always going to be even numbers. So you're never going to have to worry about like who goes first, who goes second. You're always going to be odd numbers, and they are going to be even numbers. Once you're done with your turn, you're just going to flip over your token to show that you have activated, and you're going to move on to the next person. So this is super, super cool. I'm really a big fan of this system. I don't think I can say that enough. So we'll see how this all plays out. I'm going to have to find some neat little tricks in here to try to figure out how best to use my characters and save all of our colonists. The final 2 decks of cards that we have are minor traumas and severe traumas. These are bad, bad, bad. If you ever take damage, you don't have any health left in either your head, hands, or feet, you are going to have to draw a minor trauma card and resolve it. This one, for example, is a persistent trauma. It'll affect the arms and legs. So if you were to get hit in the head and have to draw a head trauma card, you would just discard this one and draw another one until you found one that worked on the head. So this is a persistent trauma. This is an immediate trauma. We'll resolve this immediately, then discard it. So we'd have to deal with this particular problem. Now, if we had 3 resolve, we could pay that 3 resolve to discard the card without having to do anything. So you do have options to use a resolve to stop these cards from happening. For example, this one, though, the persistent wound, not only do we have to spend 2 resolve, we would also have to spend an action point because this is a persistent one. It's going to be going on top of your skill deck, and when you draw it, you have to play it. When you play it, then you can pay these, if you wish to remove this from the deck and not have to deal with it. So there is ways to prevent some of these traumas from coming in, but they're bad news. And of course, the severe traumas is when your body goes to 0 and you'll draw the cards. Then it says immediate trauma resolve, immediately discard. You're going to lose 5 of your threat, and instead of being eliminated, you grit your teeth and fight regardless of your wounds. Restore yourself to 1 wound and gain a +1 damage token. So this would not kill you, but you'd lose all your threat, which probably is pretty good, and you have 1 health. So in some of these in here are just going to say you are eliminated, thank you for playing, and you're going to remove your character from the board, which is sad, sad, sad. So I'm just going to give these a good old truffle shuffle here since we know what since we know what a couple of those are, and we'll put them back out here. And I think we're ready to start our game. The only thing left to do is draw our starting hand, and our starting hand is going to be here, and it's also our max hand size moving forward. So we'll take our cards, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 5 for our Maverick. And let's quickly look at these, and I'll explain a little bit about what's going on. The first one, of course, is how many action points it's going to cost in order to play this card. This is going to show you how much threat you're going to get when you play this card. It shows you what the actual card is going to do, which is going to be able to do a pulse attack, which is going to be from our weapon over here. And when we do choose our pulse attack, we could choose either one of our pistols to fire that attack. The next thing is if the target is within 2 range, this attack gains +1 damage. So this is a very kind of point blank shot, as it says. Also, our weapon here that we have does have +1 damage when fired in between range 1 and 2. It's kind of its ideal range for it to be able to do maximum damage. So we do want to try to do that. Now, of course, it does have a maximum range of 5 right here. So we want to try to get between 1 or 2 of a person to be able to attack with +1 damage, and we could potentially use our point blank shot to get another damage. That'd be 2 even before we draw our ammo card. Next thing we have is Bullseye. So this again is going to cost 1. It's going to be 1 threat to play this card. And when you play do your actions, you're going to be able to spend as many action points as you have based on what you chose for your formation. And so let's see, this one's going to allow us to move 2. It's going to be able to fire with either a pulse or a burst, and you're going to gain precision, which means its attack ignores cover, and I'll explain that when we start moving around the board and attacking our enemies. The next thing we have is Taser Dart. This is a support tactic. I can choose choose a target within 6 and within line of sight. It's going to inflict immobilize, which means the enemy cannot move during its next turn. It costs 0. This is a support tactic, which is kind of cool. Here's one of our permanent stances that we could place up here if we want to. It's going to cost us 1 to play. It's going to cost us 2 in order to do that. And it says here, when you perform a pulse attack with your pistol, you may perform 1 additional pulse with another equipped pistol. You may choose a different target for each attack. So for example, I could put this down as 1 and then play my bullseye or my point blank shot, and I'd be able to attack with this and then attack again with my other pistol if I wish to, because I could have my gunslinger down. The last one we have is combat roll. As a movement tactic, I can move 3 in a straight line, and it does mean straight. This maneuver must be performed in a straight line. Diagonals are not allowed. So those are the cards that this character has. If I do not like my cards, I do have the option of mulliganing. If I do choose to mulligan, I have to mulligan my entire hand back into my deck and then draw 5 new cards. I think the cards I have are going to be awesome, so we are going to keep those. Let's see what cards our Vanguard is going to get. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He also gets 5 cards based on his hand size right there. We have Light 'em Up. This is going to cost us 2 action, but it's a combat a tactic. It's going to do a pulse burst, then move, and then you can do a pulse burst or full auto. So you can like pretty much use his entire weapon there in 1 turn here. Flush him out. It's a combat tactic. I can pulse burst. I can smack back 1, which is going to be able to push enemies around. And this is also going to allow me to do that pinpoint action. I believe that's what that's called. It's a precision action. Then we have Get Moving. It's 0. Target an ally within 8. The target may discard any of the, the suppression cards that they have. Now, these suppression cards, you're going to gain these if you ever have to draw a card from your deck and there aren't any to draw. You're going to shuffle your deck up and you're going to draw one of these into your hand, which means, like I said, it's going to gum up your hand, meaning you can only have a certain amount of cards. You only have 4 because you can't use this ever to pay for any type of actions or do any actions with it. Also, this is going to have a detriment into some of the ammo cards, from what I understand. I think there's certain cards that can make you totally miss an entire attack if you have any of those in your hand. So we might want to get rid of these. Then you get to move after that. The next one is a support tactic where you can heal 3. Not bad. Then we have a reaction. These are specific to when enemies do their actions. Notice there is nothing up here that has to do with paying a cost. This is a target an ally within 8. It prevents 2 damage from any incoming attack of that ally. Now, let's see here. There's also going to be light, and then we're back to Light Them Up. So these are his cards. I think they're pretty good. Sadly, I didn't get any permanent cards. So I'm going to shuffle them. I don't actually know if he had any permanent cards. I probably should have looked at all these cards before I did this. But we are going to shuffle these all up, and we are going to grab 5 new cards here from this deck. Give them a truffle shuffle. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, some of these we've probably already seen, and some of these we may not have. So now I get moving. That's the same. I think we've seen it before. Flush them out. We've seen that one. Take the shot. I can command and target an ally within 8. The target may discard a suppression card and then make a pulse burst shot if it wishes to with +1 damage. It has a adamantine charge. This is where I'm going to be able to use my sword to attack with, which means I'm going to be able to strike or combo. And again, it depends on which one you want to attack with, depending on how many you're going to draw from your ammo deck. Now, the difference between a melee attack and a ranged attack with the gun is when you reload, you're just going to reload this ammo deck. When it comes to a melee attack, when you have to reload your melee attack, instead of just shuffling everything up, you're going to add in one of these arm strain cards, because you're swinging your weapon so many times, eventually you're going to get tired as you go through the game. So you're going to add that to your ammo deck, and this one it does say miss, but then remove the card from your deck. So it is going to give you no damage if you draw that card, but then you get to remove it from your deck. And we're going to continue on here with a phalanx advance. I can use a combat tactic to gain a shield token. Then I can also move and then attack with a burst or pulse. And then we get moving again, and then that's about it. Okay, so we have those cards I have to keep. We're going to keep them right there, and that's totally fine. Now we have to decide where we want to focus our actions. Or sorry, we have to grab our squad formation, not focus our actions. Let's quickly look at all the different possibilities you can do for your squad formation. The first one up here, like I said before, is point, which means the only thing you're going to do is gain 3 of the threat, and you're going to have 2 actions. The next one is flank, where you're going to have 2 threat. You get a free 2 move. Primary gunner is going to give you 2 threat, but it also gives you 3 actions. It's the first available one that's going to give you 3 actions. Now, as you're gaining threat, like I've said before, you're going to gain some of these resolve tokens that you can use. If you ever are up to number 10, like I said before, you're going to be able to gain one of these tokens that are going to give you +1 to your attack. You can spend this whenever you want to. If you ever spend 2 of these, you can increase your damage to 3. So 1 for 1, or you can spend 2 to make 3. So somebody has to try to get 3 if you get 2 of them if you can do that. The other problem is you are going to gain this marked target, which means any attacks that are going to be done against you are going to gain precision, which means that they will ignore any type of cover you're trying to do. If you ever get more than 1 marked token, you're going to not only have to deal with precision, but you're also going to have aim 1 used against you. So you do not want to be a marked target. That is bad news city. Let's look at the other ones that we can do. We have fire gunner, which is going to give us only 1 threat. It's going to give us one of those extra damage tokens and 3 actions. Now, when you get to the bottom here, you're going to get less actions, but you're going to have extra things you can do. For example, the watcher is only going to gain 1 threat, but it's going to get one of those watcher cards, which is they're all the same. It's going to be Overwatch, but you have this action then in your thing, which you can use when you want to as a reaction if you want to. When the enemies are doing things, you can react to that. You're also going to have the last one here is rear guard. You're going to lower your threat by 3. You're going to heal yourself 2, and you're going to be able to reload a weapon, which is also pretty good. So if you have a lot of threat and you've been really target a lot, this one might not be a bad idea. Now, of course, you are going last in the order. For our particular characters, I'm going to choose fire gunner for her, and I'm going to use point for him, or maybe flank. I think I'll try flank. We'll see how that goes. So let me gain to, oh no, I want 3, because remember, our colonists already have 3 threat. So that means they are going to be a primary target most likely, unless I can get somebody else there with the same amount of threat. So Vanguard is going to take 3 threat. Now, the choosing a squad formation is the first of 4 parts when it comes to the turn order. The other 3 are going to be the enemy AI, then we'll move into the action phase, and the final one we have is the end phase. So now that we've selected our squad formations, we're going to move into our enemy AI phase. Now, since I took the fire gunner, I'm going to gain one of these tokens for our Maverick. That's awesome. And we're going to get 3 threat for our Vanguard and only 1 for our fire gunner. And then we're going to be able to collect our resolve. From where our 2 people are, the Vanguard is going to collect 2 of these resolve tokens, and the Maverick's going to collect 1. And we'll place those tokens right up here. And when you use them, you just flip them over to show that they are spent. If you go down on the track, you don't get to recollect these. It's only when you reach the threshold of where those are. So we'll put those up here, and I've already given the Maverick hers. We're now going to draw the top card off of our AI deck and see what happens. We have Seize the Initiative. Unprepared for your squad's sudden assault, the enemy is taken by surprise. So the target is going to be the highest threat. And then we're going to look here. Anybody that is part of the gray group is going to do the ability to take cover at number 6. The yellow group is going to go at 8, and it's going to take cover, and the red group is going to advance. Now, the only color we have out here right now at the time is yellow. So that yellow group is going to take initiative slot 8. So I'm going to place this right here on the initiative slot, which is going to show that it's in between 7 and 9. And like I said before, the super cool thing about it is that you always are going to know when your enemies are going to activate, because there isn't going to be a discrepancy as whether they're on the same place as you are, because they're always going to take the even numbers. You're always going to take the odd numbers. Now, this is a Heat 1 card, which means it's kind of a less, it's not as punishing of a card as another card could be as the Heat. Battle heats up. it could become more intense. This down here shows you the number of the event. Right now this is number 101. So if you're ever told to put card 101 into an event deck, you would be choosing to have this card into it. Okay, we'll put that to the side so that I know how to activate my enemies when it comes to their turn. But notice on top of the deck here, it says Scenario Event A. This is going to be resolved at the end of the current round. So once this round is over, we are going to deal with this event card. And I have no idea what it is. It could be really good, it could be really bad. I'm going to guess it's going to be bad because we're infiltrating and shooting all these bad guys. Moving into the action phase, we are going to start with the Vanguard. There are many different things you can do during the action phase. You can, one, choose to play any of your cards in your hand, of course, paying the action cost up here. The Vanguard does have 2 actions. The other thing you can do is there are many different standard actions you can choose to do. You can move, you can shoot, you can melee, you can aim, reload, and then you can also order other units. Now, in order to make any of these standard actions, you do have to discard a card from your hand. So you have to decide if there is nothing you can do with your deck that you're not really interested in doing, the standard actions may be the way to go. Of course, if you move, you're just going to move equal to your speed value, and you can move diagonally. In this game, from what I understand, there is no detriment from running away from enemies. There's no like extra attacks they can make against you or reactions attacks, or unless, of course, there's something specified in a scenario or a character or an enemy card of some kind. The next one is if you just want to discard one of these to make a shoot action, you totally can, doing what is on your weapon. You can do a pulse, a burst, or a full auto. There's nothing preventing you from doing any of those since it doesn't have anything, there isn't a requirement on the action card. This, of course, this one does not have a ideal range to attack from, which is too bad. So don't get any extras like I do with the pistols. The other one is we can perform a melee, again, using the sword that we have for our Vanguard. Again, discarding a card just to do that. We also can perform an aim action on a weapon of our choice, which allows you to order an ally or a colonist within 3 spaces of you, and that one can perform a move action immediately under the control of me. Now, of course, that is a full action point in order to do that. The other one you can do, of course, is reload, where you're just going to take your ammo deck and reshuffle it back together and be able to use it. Now, of course, if it is the melee one, you will be adding one of those arm strain cards to your deck. Our Vanguard is not going to perform any basic actions. What the Vanguard is going to do is first I'm going to use Flush Them Out. It's a combat tactic that allows me to pulse or burst and then smash back one. I do get precision on this, which means I would ignore cover. Now, these are the different cover things here. If you're ever drawing line of sight, which is center to center on these, so if I wanted to say shoot this guy, I would draw an imaginary line from the center of my square to the center of his square. If it did cross if the person is directly next to an obstacle, they're able to gain cover from that particular obstacle, which is pretty cool. And the cover mechanic is going to give you half of the damage that you'd normally get round down. So being in cover is actually very good in this game. But sadly, I'm not in cover. I'm just going to go for this. And I'm not going to actually be able to take advantage of the precision because the person I'm targeting is going to be right here. I'm going to target number 4 Scrapper, and I am going to do a pulse or burst attack. Now to do that, I'm going to look at my weapon card. I've got 1 card I could draw for pulse or 2 if I want to do a burst. There is an advantage and a disadvantage from doing pulse versus burst. First, pulse, of course, will only draw 1 card, which technically could do less damage, but there are also cards in here that if you're doing a pulse would do a lot of damage. But of course, the burst is mean I get to use 2 cards, but this will run out faster and I'll have to use a reload action faster. I think what we're gonna do is we are gonna use a burst attack on this. So I'm gonna draw 2 cards. We got a direct hit, which ignores cover and armor. And oh my gosh, look at that. We did 5 damage. We did 5 damage to this guy. That is absolutely insane amount of damage. We're gonna put those in the discard pile and let's go do our damage to the enemy. Now, of course, none of our enemies in this particular adventure are going to have armor, but if you do have enemies that do, they would be reducing the amount of damage based on the armor. For example, if we were fighting our Nova Enforcer, this one does have 1 armor as shown down here at the bottom, but we're not fighting Nova Enforcers, we are fighting Scrappers that don't have armor. So it's still doing 2 damage is fantastic. It would ignore cover. I'm not worried about that. So we're gonna do our 5 damage. That brings our scrapper 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 damage down to 3. The other part of this card is going to be smash back 1. What that does, it's going to move the enemy back 1 square, or it's going to move it back equal to the number over here, and the number is 1. And where that enemy is it's right up against a wall, so it can't actually move 1. So it's going to take damage equal to the amount that it cannot move. So that's going to be 1 more, meaning it has only 2 health left. This card is also going to increase my threat by 1, so we'll move the token up 1 space. And then we'll place this card next to our character so that we remember how many action points we have used. The next card I'm going to play is going to be Phalanx Advance, another combat tactic. I'm going to gain 1 threat. I'm going to be able to gain a shield token, then move up to my speed value, and then perform a pulse burst attack. One thing I do want to mention is if you choose not to do parts of this card, that means some of it's not going to resolve. So let's say, for example, I decided, say this one gave me a move 3, but then I didn't want to do a pulse or burst attack. That means the smash back and precision wouldn't fire off as well because I never did the attack. But this one, on the other hand, I'm going to do all this. I'm going to gain my defense token, which I can spend, of course, to reduce damage, and then I'm going to move. I'm going to move 1, 2, 3 to right there, and once I've moved to there, I am then going to make my pulse burst shot against that same scrapper 4. We're going to try to take it out. That is going to be our plan. Now again, I have to decide if I want to do a pulse or burst attack. Oh, this guy only has 2 health. I only have to do 2 damage. I think again we're going to do pulse. Oh, I forgot to discard my card. Because when you do a pulse attack, you get to draw 2 cards, but then you do have to discard 1. So I'm going to discard that top card, which would have done 1 damage or 2 if I did pulse with precision. So lucky for me, and I know that there's not one of those in the deck, so for sure we are going to do pulse this time. I am going to do 2 damage. That's enough to kill him, but we're also going to waste some damage here. Oh, look, another damage. And then I have to discard a card. So we discarded a miss, which is good. But there is only 1 left, so I know that I can decide if I want to reload or if I want to fire on my next turn using a pulse. And the good news is I'm such a great combat tactician, and I've been around the globe enough to know how this pulse rifle works. And so I actually know all the cards in my deck. So there is a chance. So I actually know what this card is right now. So I'm going forward. If I want to fire this card, knowing what it is, I know exactly what kind of damage I'm going to do, or of course I can reload and put all those back into my deck. But we did a total of what, 3 damage to this guy? He is super dead. I'm going to take him off the board and we're going to place him in the dead pile. That's awesome. So he was able to take somebody out. He does gain 1 more threat and a shield token that I will place on his character board. And the shield tokens are very similar to those extra damage tokens. If you ever discard 1, you get to reduce the damage by 1. But if you have 2 and discard 2 of those, it actually will help you by removing or stopping 3 damage coming at you. We'll move our token up to 5 and we'll gain our 3rd resolve token that I'll place in his board. That's going to conclude the Vanguard turn. I will discard my 2 cards and I have performed my 2 actions. I do have a 0 action card if I want to, but I'm going to keep this card. It says an ally within 8 can remove 1 of the suppression and then do a move action. So I could make her move 4 spaces, or I can make one of the colonists move 3 spaces, but I don't think I'm going to have to worry about that right now. So I'm going to hold on to that card. Now it does say target an ally within 8, and you are not an ally to yourself in this game. So this cannot be played on the Vanguard itself. It can only be played on another character that's just an ally to you. We're going to move into the Maverick's turn. The Maverick does have 3 action points that she can use. The first one we're going to do is we are going to put out our Gunslinger ability here, which is a permanent stance. It's going to give us 2 threat, which is going to move us to 3 and give us another one of those resolve tokens. So she now has 2 resolve, and I'll place that in her board. This will also allow us, when we perform a pulse action with a pistol, I may perform 1 additional pulse with another equipped pistol. You may choose different targets if I want for each attack. So I'm going to play that out. That is one of my stances. I think the stances are super cool. I think that's really neat that you can do different stances and mindsets to really increase how you're going to do things. Now, speaking of that, I am now going to do some good stuff. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to play point blank. It's going to be a pulse attack, and if the target is within 2, this attack gains +1 damage. And this enemy is going to be my target. It is 2 spaces away, so I am going to get the extra damage. This right here is considered cover, but it's only considered cover to me because this character is not adjacent to it in any way. If it was adjacent to a particular piece of cover, then it would be in cover or at some point, as long as I cannot draw a line to it without if it crosses through here. So if he was over here, for example, he would have cover from me. But this poor guy did not know we were coming in. We dropped in. He is just standing out in the open. He's about to get shot point blank in the face, and we're going to target him. I'm going to do 1 damage plus whatever our card is. And we will shoot with this weapon right here. I am going to be doing an extra, oh my gosh, 3 damage. And then because of my gunslinger ability, I am able to fire again. I could choose to fire at him, or I could shoot at another person within range, but I think we're just going to take this guy out. I've got, oh, direct hit ignores overhand armor. So I did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, because these are, I am in my optimal range for my 2 pistols. So my pistols went bang, bang, and I did 7 points of damage, plus I get the +1 for being a point blank attack. That's going to be 8 total damage. We shot and destroyed this character in 1 shot. That was absolutely amazing and not even close to what I was planning. So now I have to kind of rethink my strategy, because I was planning to shoot him with my bullseye card next. I guess we'll go shoot somebody else. With my next action, I am going to perform my bullseye attack, which I was planning to fire at that guy, but since he's super dead and I killed him 1 shot, we're going to do this instead on somebody else. So I am going to gain 1 threat, which means I go up to 4, which is totally fine. I do not gain any new resolve from that. Then I get to move 2 and perform a pulse or burst attack with the precision attack again if I want to. But here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to move 2. Now, if you notice all these different 3D elements out here, they all do different things in a way. For example, these will provide cover, but they're not going to block, they're not like going to block your line of fire. This one in particular cannot be moved over, but this one can be moved over at normal without any detriment. So I'm going to move 1, 2 to right there, giving me the ability to put my pistol in optimal range of firing at that guy. And at this point, I am now going to perform a pulse attack on them. I don't think there's not very many good cards left in that deck after I pulled those 2 awesome cards. But you know, maybe we'll do a little bit of damage to him. We'll see how it goes. Our first pistol is going to do pulse. I did 1 damage, plus I get precision, and it ignores armor. Neither of these are going to play into effect for this attack, but I did 1 damage. Because of my gunslinger, I'm able to fire again. I'm going to fire at the same person, and that one's going to do 2. So I did 1, 2, 3 damage. Plus, since this person is in optimal range, I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 damage to that enemy. Now, it's sadly not enough to kill him. Otherwise, I would use my token here to do the 6, but I think 5 will be okay. 5 is just enough to do enough damage to him. I really dig this gunslinger ability where you can just keep flipping these cards. This is pretty awesome. I love it. All right, so 5 damage to him leaves him with only 3 health. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, down to 3. We're almost got 3 guys in 1 turn. That is the end of her turn. I do have, again, some other options at 0 cost. I could do a combat roll, which means I could move 3 in a straight line. I could go 1, 2, 3 if I wanted to over to there as an action if for free, or not for free, but to play my card if I want to. I could tase somebody, giving them the ability to not be able to move. Also, this one would muff them, which if you're doing a stealth type mission, they would not be able to sound the alarm if you use the taser dart on them, which kind of makes sense because they're going and they're kind of standing there. That's pretty awesome. With her activation being completed, I'm going to flip over her activation chip. I forgot to mention that I flipped over his, so he is done as well. So now if we go down our initiative track, number 8 is going to activate, which is going to be all of our yellow enemies. They are going to do what is called take cover. Each enemy does have a type of action that they're going to perform. This one, like I said, is going to be take cover. The different ones you could have are advance, charge, retreat, flank, align, or like I said, take cover. There's usually 6 different ones that are the generic kind of ones you're going to see. Of course, other AI cards could have things on top of them. They're going to have special rules that are going to be explained on the cards themselves. But with a take cover particular action, what it's going to do, it's going to acquire its target, which is highest threat, which is going to be him. Then it's going to attempt to find cover, which I'll have to move the enemy to gain cover against a priority target. Now, these enemies all have a speed of 3. So for example, this one's going to move 1, to 3 to right here so that it has cover from this particular enemy. And it's going to try to find the closest way to get to that. This one right here is probably going to move 1 back there because now it has cover from that particular enemy and it's still able to see its priority target. Once it's done that, it is going to perform its red action on its enemy card. Now, some of the other things they could do is, for example, advance would mean they would just move forward to the closest cover position and still try to make an attack, and then make an attack. The main thing it's going to try to do is attack. And if it can't get to cover, it's still going to want to try to get to a point where it can attack the enemy that it is supposed to be targeting. Retreat, of course, is going to full move away from the target and try to find cover if it can. Flanking is it's going to try to move to deny cover to the target and still try to find cover for itself. Of course, the order of what it's going to try to do is try to deny the cover first, then try to find cover as it's trying to do that. The align, it's going to acquire a target and then move to be exactly a certain amount of spaces away from that target. And of course, there's charge, where it's just it doesn't care. It's just going to charge as close and full move towards the target the best it can. Most of the time, probably resulting in a melee attack of some kind. Now let's take a look at that red activation on our yellow enemies. Our Scrapper's specific action here is going to be to use a ranged attack using a light fire enemy card, and it's going to go at a range of 6. Now, of course, I am within range 6 of both of those attacks, so we're going to get hit by both of these attacks coming at us. The first person that is going to attack is going to be Enforcer number 1. He is going to make his attack here. I will take my light attack card. We'll see what it does. Now, interestingly enough, I have cover against this particular attack because I am adjacent to an object that is giving me cover. If he was over here, I would not be getting cover because it would not cross the line that I am adjacent to this particular obstacle. So it would have been more advantageous for him to go there and attack, but since the AI, when it comes to the take cover maneuver, it is going to go to the one with the least amount of grid space to get to. So that is why it moved over there. All right, we'll see what the light attack is. It is 2 damage to my chest. Now remember, I do get covered, so I get to round this down and take half the damage rounded down. So it's going to be 1 damage to my chest. The second attack is going to come from here. Now I could, if I wanted to, use my defense token that I have to prevent all of that damage from coming at me, but I'm going to save it in case this guy does something even more detrimental to me. Now, of course, this could be a bad idea because he could actually draw a miss. We'll know in a second here, because here is his light fire attack card. Again, targeting the person with the most threat. This particular one hit me in the chest and doesn't reduce threat. Some of these cards are going to reduce our threat. This one, for example, oh my gosh, did 3 damage to me, and it does get to lower my my threat by 2, 1, 2, bringing me down to 3 threat for my Vanguard. I take 3 damage though. I think I might actually use my shield token on that one, so I'm only going to take 2. So we took a total of 3 damage from all those attacks. Taking 3 damage, 1, 2, 3, brings us to 4. So we need to try to find some armor or a way to heal him. When I moved my Vanguard down the threat track to 3 here, I do not lose the resolve that I've already gained, but I will not regain another resolve when I get there. Because I've reached that threshold, I have already gained my 3rd resolve. I'm going to discard my token, and I'm also going to discard both of those hit cards. That was absolutely brutal. Took a lot of damage, but what can I say? They took a lot of damage too. I'm also going to discard that card as well. And now that the enemy activation is over, we'll move into our end phase, where if there's any scenario events on top of the AI card, we will then resolve them. And of course there is a scenario event A on top. So we'll resolve this at the end of the current round, which is now. Of course, there is 3 different parts of the action phase. I only talked about 2 of them. One is going to be the player activation. The second was the enemy activation. And of course, when it's done, you should flip over the activation token. The other part is cleanup. After a unit's activation, remove any condition tokens that were not gained during the current round. For example, if I had like a jam or any other type of tokens that I would have to discard at the end of the round, or the end of activation, that is when I would do it. We will see now what Scenario A has to offer us. Now, one thing I do want to mention before we read the scenario is that this token, for example, this is technically a persistent token. It is not one that is going to be removed at the upkeep cleanup phase. Other ones could be things like jam or shield tokens. The shield token that I had, I did not have to use. I could have used it in another turn in the future, and I don't have to discard it during the cleanup phase. Alerted by the sounds of battle, more scrappers appear out of the building to join the fray. Suddenly, Gravis lands in front of you. The butcher is inside that building. Take out the hostiles and get ready to breach the center doors. I'll go secure the rear to cut off his escape. Grievous breaks into a run and disappears into the alleyway between the buildings. So at this point, we're going to deploy the following enemy units. I'm only playing with 2 players, so I will put down 1 scrapper. Now, interestingly enough, I just want to mention, if you are playing solo, I'd recommend that you would play with 1 full van card, like you see with all the cards and everything, but the other ones you would play as crew members, but each crew member would still count as a player count. So if you played with the, let's say, the Vanguard as your main character, and then the other 2 as crew members, you would still be using a 3-player count when it comes to what you would do for the types of things when it comes to, well, when it comes to the player count options here. I've placed scrapper number 4 onto the 2 zone here. There's still a door. We haven't figured out how to get through the door, maybe killing some more of these scrappers, or maybe it might help. We'll see how it all goes. But now we still have 3 scrappers out there. Of course, one of them is in a world of hurt, which is right down here. The other 2 are at full health, so we'll have to try to take these guys out. Also, there's some cool things out on the board. I might want to try to get to some of these crates as well to give myself some cool items. Now that we've resolved the scenario effect, you are now going to draw back up to your hand size, but before you do, you can discard any cards you don't think you're going to need. I don't think I'm going to need this taser action, so I'm going to put that in my discard pile and grab 4 more cards. So I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cards for Maverick. Maverick is going to gain dodge. I can prevent 1 damage from an incoming attack. Now this is one of those defense cards, which means I can play this on their turn. Another one is I can do trick shot, which looks pretty awesome. I can inflict jam, and it has precision, so it ignores cover. She's so good at ignoring cover. It's so good. Oh, look at this one. Dual barrage. Pulse, pulse, boom, boom, boom. I like that one. All right, this one's loaded. Ace is loaded. This is awesome. Look at this. Support tactic. Move 2, then reload, and then get an aim token. All for nothing. It costs me nothing to do this. So I can look at the top of my aim demo deck, and I may put the card on the bottom of the deck if I want. Oh my gosh, those cards are so good. This character is amazing. Super love the Maverick. Meanwhile, up here, he has the Get Moving card, allows other people to move. I'm actually going to discard that one as well, just because I don't think I need to move too many people. So I'm going to grab 1, 2, I get 3 more cards. The first one I've got is Lethal Strike. I can move 2 and then strike. It ignores cover, and it doesn't cost me any action points. That's so good. The next one I have is Full Auto. Combat Attack. I have to move 2, then do Full Auto. Ignore, and you may ignore 1 miss during the attack. And what I really need is I need like a reload card here. Command, target any ally within 8. That target gains a +1 token. Oh, if I can give her a +1 token, that means she can discard both of them, do 3 damage. Oh, these guys work so good together. This is so cool. I just need to find a way to reload this, because I know that this right here is just a 1 attack. It's a 1 damage right here. So I have to try to reload all these cards in there, which is going to cost me an action unless I can get to my top power here. Now I could have used some of these to prevent this damage. I could have redirected it towards the Maverick if I wanted to, or I could also used an overshield, prevent 1 damage from an incoming attack at you if I wanted to. I could have used those for that particular thing, but I think what I want to do is I want to get to this Legion Breaker here, where I could reload my weapon and then do a double burst with multiple damage to hopefully take somebody completely out. That'd be so good. Now also, we're looking for a way to move. I want to move as well. So like this Full Auto can move, this Lethal Strike can move, everything I got can move. This so good. Oh, these guys are amazing. These are super, super cool. I love how different they play, but also how awesome all the cards are. They all seem so very valuable at some point. I know I discarded the Taser card, but I can see that this could be really powerful during a stealth mission if you have to try to take out those people without being heard. So good. Moving to the beginning of the second round, I have to now choose my squad formation. I think this time we're going to reverse this a little bit. I'm going to put her up here on top. She's going to gain 3, 1, 2, 3, which means she now has 4 of those resolve tokens. So she has the ability to do her superpower attack if I want her to. Or of course I could use use it to use some of the other stuff on my ability cards there. Then he is going to choose, I could choose primary gunner again to give him 2, which isn't the end of the world. Or I could move down here to fire gunner. That also gives him that +1 damage token, which is really good. But these 3 actions I think are going to be really, really monstrous for him. Or of course I can move up here and allow him to move 2 spaces just right away and then be able to do 2 actions if he wants to. I'm so tough. I think we're going to do the fire gunner for him. So he is going to gain 1 threat, moving it up to 4. At this point, we will resolve our enemy here and see where he is going to fall on here. We have the hostile forces. It says here, as the numbers are cut down, the enemies take cover and retaliate. So we have group yellow is, oh my gosh, going on 2. Okay, well, good thing we're going right before these guys. They're going to do that take cover action again. Oh, that means they're going to go before my Vanguard does. That's not going to be good at all. All right, again, it's still a Heat 1 card, so it's not that bad. It's going at the highest threat, so it's going to be Maverick. The Maverick is going to be attacked by this card. So I will set this card next to their player board so I can remember how to activate their cards. Maverick's got a plan. It's hopefully a good plan. I'm going to gain 1 threat going up to 8, giving myself another resolve, so I now have 5 of those. And then we're going to perform the actions on the card, which hopefully is going to take out this guy. My goal is to destroy this guy. I'm going to be able to pulse, then move, and then pulse again. So we're going to make our first attack here. Now he does have cover because I am shooting him through this piece of cover right here. So he's only going to take half damage, which I'm hoping at least both these attacks can probably try to take him out. This is going to be all of my action points to do this particular card, but I think that will be okay. Now I could choose to burst or pulse, but because we have our gunslinger card, I'm going to pulse, which means I'm going to be able to draw 2 cards, one from E. Oh, I got 2 damage. Direct. This ignores cover, so that's 2. That's enough to kill him. So do I want to flip this card? It says you may perform. That's enough to kill him. He only has 2 health. I'm not going to flip this card. I'm going to keep this card an unknown. I think that's going to be fantastic. Now, these cards in their hand, I've drawn a 3, a 1, and a 2 from this deck. I've drawn a 2 and the direct hit from that deck. So those direct hits have already hit, so I'm not going to be able to ignore cover too much anymore. But I'm going to not touch that card. Maybe this is going to be a good card. It could be the miss. I don't know. I don't know what that is. Unless I had an aim. If I had an aim, I could look at that card and decide if I wanted to keep it on the top or the bottom. But where we sit right now, that did 2 damage. I don't need to do any more because it ignores cover. Oh, no, I lied. He takes 2 damage. He's still got 1 left. Now that means I could use my +1 token, or I could flip that card. Let's just flip the card. That way I don't have to use that token unless I absolutely have to. So the other one, 3. That guy's really dead. Okay, so this guy is dead. He took all his damage. He has died. Okay, so these 2 are dead. That's fantastic. We're going to remove this guy from the board and place him next to the squad board for maybe coming back later. That was super good. Now I do get to move up to my speed value, which is 4. So I'm going to move 1, 2, 3. I'm going to actually stop right there at 3, and then I'm going to take another pulse action, and I'm going to fire at number 1. He is not going to gain cover because my line of fire is not going between this right here. Actually, you know what? I could move 1 over here. I could move 4 like that, and it's still not going to do cover because he's not adjacent to this one. If he was adjacent to this one, that would give him cover, but my shot is not going to go through this. So that is not going to help him. Poor guy. He's going to get hit with 2 pulse attacks again from my pistols. Now, sadly, there's probably not much left in this deck that's any good. We got a 2 damage, so that's 2 damage coming at him. And then my other attack is the miss. Now, if I had, or it does no damage. If I had a suppression card in my deck, this whole attack would have done nothing. But I am going to do 2 damage to him, which is better than nothing. So that will drop number 1 down to 6 health. At this point, I am going to play a few more cards because I do have 0 action cards if I want to. I'm going to use my loaded aces because I've used a lot of the best cards from my deck. So I'm going to move 2 spaces, which is going to move me 1, 2. And whenever you move on to one of these loot spaces, you then get to draw a loot card from the deck. So I have a standard gear card item, and we have found ourselves combat armor. It's going to give us +1 to our health, and I could could sell it or buy it for 200 depending on how it goes in our missions that we're playing in the campaign. When you first reveal one of these cards, it gives you the option if you want to equip it or use it in any capacity without having to do any kind of actions or anything. If you already had something in this particular slot and you wanted to use this, you could totally just re-slot it out. So we are totally going to equip that on that character. So we've placed it right here and we automatically get that +1. So even if we had taken damage down to, let's say, 3 and we've picked this up, then we just go up to 4. So you automatically get to get the ability that this gives you. So I do get the extra 1 health. I also get to reload, and since I know that there's still a miss in this one, I'm going to reload this deck. So we're going to give this deck a good old little truffle shuffle here, and it'll be ready to go when we fight again with our awesome pistols. And now that it's reloaded, I do get to do an aim, which means I can look at the top card. It's a 1. I'm going to put that at the bottom, and I can then decide if I want to place it on the bottom or not. Another thing I haven't mentioned about this game while we're playing is that when you do move actions, you can actually move up these buildings, climbing up to the top of these buildings if you want to. So you can get up on top of these, which is why there are gridded spaces on top of them. I haven't had a need to move up there yet, but in certain scenarios, I'm sure that would give you a tactical advantage. We'll discard our 2 cards and move into the enemy's turn by flipping over our token. Now their action is going to be to get to cover from the person with the most threat. Now the Vanguard has the most threat, and it's going to start with number 1. So right now, number 1 does not have cover from this particular person attacking. So moving over here would give that enemy cover from our Vanguard, or from our Maverick. The problem is it can't make an attack. So it's not going to do that from what I understand. So instead it's going to try to still keep an attack, but also try to get to cover. There isn't a way for it to do it. So it's just going to move out 1, 2, 3, I think, to right there and try to attack. It's going to just advance on this character, because if it tries to get anywhere else, there's no place else it can take cover. Do also be aware you can move through allies in this game. You cannot stop on allied squares, but you cannot cross through enemies. So this person couldn't move 1, 2, 3 over to here, moving through that Vanguard. But I'm going to move our character to here. That's going to be our movement for that character. This character is already in cover from the person with the most threat. Now, sadly, not from this person. This person is going to sneak in here and smash that guy into next week. But these people are both going to make an attack now at range 6 with the light fire attack card. We have already looked at their character board, and it is going to be doing this particular action. It's taking cover. Didn't have to worry about that, or did that, I should say. So now the first number 1 is going to make its attack. Now that I don't have cover from this attack, so I'm taking the full brunt of this. I'm taking 2 damage to the hands. Now, sadly, I do not have any defense in the hands, so I'm going to take 1, 2 damage, which means I would take a minor trauma to this particular location. But what I'm going to do is I am going to play my defense card. It prevents 1 damage from an incoming attack on you. I'm going to play that right now as a defense to prevent myself from taking any of those minor traumas. Do note that if you do take, if I were to take 3 damage at this point, I would take 1 and the rest of it would spill over to my body section, and I would also gain that minor trauma. Now in the future, if I'm attacked and I get hit in the hands and I already have this particular area of my body broken, I would not take another minor trauma card. It would just spill into my chest and armor, or chest damage automatically without taking any other minor trauma cards, just to make sure people are aware of how that works. So you're not just going to keep taking minor traumas every time you get hit in the hand and take damage in the chest. That'd be brutal. So that was the first attack against me, was with that one. Now the second one coming at me, I am in cover from. So I'm going to I'm hopefully not going to take too many. 1 rounded down is going to be 0. I'm going to take 0 damage to my head because 1 rounded down is 0.5, and it always is rounded down. So I'm taking nothing. That was fantastic. Super good, because if I would have gotten hit in the head, I would have taken a minor trauma. Another thing I want you to be aware of is if I did have cover, that would be the thing you reduce first before you reduce any type of armor or any other ways of reducing damage. The cover reduction always is the first one. That's the end of these enemies. We will flip their token to the other side and move on to our Vanguard. Moving into the Vanguard's turn, he is on that space that's going to give him a +1 token, so I will add that to his board, and he gets to perform 3 actions. The first thing he's going to do is he is going to give him hell. He's going to target an ally with an 8, and that character is going to gain an attack token, which is awesome. She now has 2, which she can discard to do 3 extra damage on an attack. And now with his first action, because that cost him nothing, he is going to do this. Command an ally with an 8. To target may discard any suppression tokens they have, but I don't have any. And I can do burst attack with +1 damage. And I'm going to have her just fire at that guy. We'll take our first shot with our Falcon pistol. I did 2, +1 is 3, +1 is 4 because of this card. Then I'm going to take another pulse attack from here. So I've done 4, and then we do, well, pulse is 5, it ignores cover, doesn't matter, and armor doesn't matter. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 damage. I don't think each of these get a +1. I think just the one that's attacking is going to get the +1. So that's 6 damage, which might be enough to kill that guy off. Yes, it is. This guy had 6 left, so he is dead. We're going to remove number 1 from the board, which is fantastic. And now let's go get that guy. Let's see what we can do to him. I am going to first use my combat tactic card, which costs me nothing, to move 2 spaces and do a strike. So we're going to move up 1, 2. I'm going to land on this little token here, which means I am going to be able to gain an item from the common deck. So we'll see what we have. It's the standard gear deck. We have found we found combat armor again. Okay, I know I shuffled those up, but wow, same thing. Okay, that's no problem. We got combat armor. That's awesome. And it's not a bad thing. Being able to put some health on your chest is good. I am going to now perform, oh, sorry, wrong card. It's this one. I'm going to perform a strike action, and spoiler alert, with one of my other actions, I am going to move and do a combo against and gain a damage token, which is going to be awesome. The first thing we're going to do is our strike action. Our strike allows us to draw 1 card and do damage. We have done 2 damage to him, so that brings his health total to 6. That's the end of that card. Now with my other action, I am going to use this one. I'm not going to move. I'm just going to stand right where I am, and I am going to do combo. We're going to do a combo, which means I'm going to draw 2 cards. I got myself a, oh, I didn't do a strike. That would have 3 damage, otherwise 1. I did 3 damage, so that's 3 more damage to him. Plus, I am able to gain, if I hit him, I get a +1 damage token. So we've done 3 more, 1, 2, 3 points of damage to him, bringing him down to 3 health. He's got 3 health, and oh, then I also have to discard a card because I did the combo attack. So, oh, I lost a 3. That's no good. That's a really good one. Oh no! But I do get to gain a +1 damage token, meaning both of my characters have +1 damage tokens that I can discard to do 3 extra damage at some point, which should be really good. Now I do have 1 more card, and that is my full auto card if I want to. I could play this as an action to give myself 2 threat. And if you notice, none of the other cards I played had threat on them, which is pretty awesome. So sadly, I know what this is. It's like a 1. I have a 1 there, which isn't going to be enough to kill him. Unless I want to use my 2 combat tokens I have, I could discard these to do 3 damage plus the 1 would be 4, and my gun would be empty, and I'd have to find a way of reloading it, and I'd be giving myself 2 threat, which might not be the end of the world. Or I could use this to just reload my gun. That's a tough choice. I think what I'm going to do is I am going to do that. I'm going to play the card, and you can still, now sadly I could have drawn 3 cards and discarded 2, but because I only have 1 card in my deck, I'm just going to fire that bullet, and that's going to be all that's going to come out of my gun. But it is a 1, so it's going to do 1, plus I'm going to do the 3 extra damage from my 2 tokens, giving myself the ability to totally take that guy out. So now he is super dead. I'm going to remove all that, and I'm going to remove him from the board. We've cleared the board. That's absolutely fantastic. And with that, I am going to flip over his token. He's going to gain 1, 2 threat because of that full auto attack. Coming to the end of the round, we do have a scenario event. We have to deal with scenario event B. Resolve this at the end of the current round, so we will do that now. If the players have not opened door 1, continue reading below, otherwise continue your mission. Gunfire and horrific human screams can be heard from inside the central building. Gravis says, "They're executing colonists. Better hurry. Breach those center doors and neutralize the butcher." New objective. Move to door 1 and open it. When you accomplish this, proceed to Door 1 open, and read it. Here's a tip how to open doors. This would have been a good tip to have earlier in the mission. A hunter adjacent to a door may choose to open it at any time during their activation, even in the middle of a move action. Once open, doors can not be closed. Continue with your mission. Now that we also have come to the end of the round, I can choose to discard any cards I want to. I'm not. I'm going to keep those 2, and I'm going to gain 3 more. Now, these are the last 3 cards I have in my deck. So after this turn, I'm going to have to shuffle my deck, and I'm going to gain one of those suppression token cards. All right, I've got my first mindset card. It says permanent mindset. At the end of your turn, you may perform a reload action. Oh my gosh, that's really good. Or I could do this one. All your shot attacks inflict that particular ailment. And I also got flash fire combat tactics. I can just perform a pulse attack, which gives me 1 threat, but it is almost technically a free attack because it doesn't cost me any action points. Now this symbol we have seen before. When you reach the top of the threat track, you're going to get a marked target, which means that if I attack a unit with precision, I ignore cover. If a person has had multiple precisions on them, I would not only be able to get, or multiple marked targets, I would get precision, and I would also be able to get an aim 1 against them. That'd be pretty awesome. I don't know about this mindset. I think we'll be doing the other mindset, the one where I can do a free reload. That'll be awesome because this card is terrible. I don't think it's terrible, but it'd be nice to reload this particular weapon for free at the end of my next turn because I'm probably doing a lot of attacking and I'll need to find a way to reload it. But I may not need to because the Maverick also gets to draw some cards. And the Maverick is like super support character, which is super cool. He's got 1, 2, 3, 4. So I am going to have to shuffle my deck, meaning I'm going to gain a suppression card. And that means I'm not going to draw any more cards because that is going to be my hand limit of 5 with that card in my deck. So we've got a total of 5 with that card. I'll shuffle those up, leave them right here. And we have found ourselves Light 'em Up. That sounds pretty good. Combat tactic, Pulse Burst. I can move and then Pulse Burst and either full auto or Pulse Burst. That's really good. Support tech. Oh, I can heal 3. That'll be really good. Maybe he'll go first. Oh, look at all these Pulse tactics and stuff. Reaction. Target an ally within 8. Prevent 2 damage from an incoming attack to that ally. That's kind of cool. And then I got my suppression card. Condition. When gained, add this to your hand. This stays in your hand until you perform the action, the perform below action. I can spend 1 to rally, discard the suppression deck. To discard this suppression deck. So I do have the ability to get rid of it by spending an action if I want to. We really need to get to the top here so I can do a reload and just start doing some awesome damage to whatever's in the room there. I'm going to guess it's the butcher. Because the butcher's in there. So we have to take him out. All right, let's go ahead and go to the next round. It's time for us to do our squad formation yet again. I am going to choose with our characters here. I think he is going to take the flank position, giving him ability to move 2 spaces, 1, 2. He's going to also gain his 4th and 5th resolve, and we'll place those down on his character board. She is going to gain, I think I'm just going to give her that fire gunner again, which is kind of cool. She gets 3 actions and she gets that extra +1 damage token if she needs to use it, so I'll give that to her as well. And at this point, I think that's going to be where we're going to place our characters. Let's see what our enemies are going to do, even though they're not here, though I'm sure we're going to find some when we run into that building. We have ourselves a 6, an 8, and a 2. It says here, the enemy begins targeting the colonists with lethal intent. The colonists gain 5 threat on the threat tracker. Oh boy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, lucky for us, we're still not targeting them, which is good. And they're going to perform these special actions and or advance and attack. So we'll see. Oh, it's heating up. We're at heat 2. So this is going to be more devastating and damaging attacks and stuff. So that's what the enemies are going to do. They're not on the board yet, though I'm sure if, actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put the 3 different markers out there just so I know where they are. The gray ones are going to go at 2, the yellow ones are going to go at 6, and the red ones are going to go at 8. That is what they're going to do in case those appear on the board. Now, of course, the gray technically are the colonists, so they're not going to do anything. So if we open that door and it's the yellow and red, we'll know they're going to go in between our Maverick there. All right, we'll put this out on their character card again so I can remember what they have to do, and we will move into our Vanguard's turn. The first thing he's going to do is use his flank ability to allow him to move 2 spaces. One is going to be into this room room after he opens this door, and we're going to reveal that according to the scenario. Door 1 open. I'm going to take tiles D1 int and B2 int connected to the door, place enemies and terrain in the tiles as shown below. Only place the scrapper 3 and 4 if you have 3 and 4 players. So the game continues and more of the map opens up. Our characters aren't just going to instantly move in, which is going to be kind of sad because the Maverick is still stuck outside. I got to figure out how to get her in there. But I hopefully have a way to get her in there. Sadly, a lot of the command cards are in the Vanguard deck to get her to move there freely. But that's okay. Let's set all that up. I have set everything up for our next part of the adventure, which is right here. We do have our new enemy right here. This is the Scrapper Raider. He's a level 3 enemy. We'll see if we can take him down and hopefully complete the scenario in victory. I did bring our other character in, even though she was outside. The tile for this was actually one of the ones used outside, so I couldn't really keep all this stuff connected. Plus I needed these boxes. I only had 6, and this is the needed 2 in here as opposed to the 4 outside. So I just removed that map and put the new one out here. Again, remember this is a prototype, so moving forward things can change. The tile numbers may change. They're going to obviously have more tiles that are going to have to do with this game, so you wouldn't. So what I'm going to do is I figured out how to get this character into the room. On her turn, she is going to, where is it? I'm going to use this. I am going to use my flash reload card as a move card, allowing her to move 4 spaces, and then for free she can roll in with a movement tactic, which means she would be able to make it into this building using 1 of her action points. She'd actually be a lot farther in than that, and we'll figure out exactly where she is momentarily. But it is still the Vanguard's turn, so she's technically not there as far as I'm concerned. She's still outside and she's going to be running in, but again, due to the components that I have, I couldn't keep that one set up. So it's still his turn. He did his free 2 movement, which is 1 to open that door to move here, and 2, he's going to move right there. And from this point, he now has 2 actions that he can perform. So now that we've set up the board, we are going to read the rest of our 1 door opens. It says, as you kick open the doors, the butcher greets you menacingly, flanked by scraper grunts. They have a colonist cornered in a croaking, raspy voice. The butcher's issues command. Blood for blood, kill the humans, spare no one. So at this point, we're going to increase the colonist threat by 3. Okay, the new objective, defeat the butcher. There is a greater reward for capturing the butcher alive. If you defeat him while adjacent to him, then he is captured alive instead of killed. After the butcher is defeated, immediately proceed to the victory resolution. And the first thing he is going to do is use his mantra card. We've been waiting for this. This is going to be so good. I'm going to use my ultimate here. It's a Legion Breaker. So I'm going to spend 4 of my resolve tokens. So I'm going to take these and flip these upside down. So we have 1. We've used 1, 2, 3, and then we'll get our 4th one right here to show that we've used those 4. Now we don't discard them because remember it's a threshold. I'm not going to be actually able to gain any new ones going forward unless there's a card or as part of the scenario that lets me do that. The first thing I'm able to do because of my ultimate is reload a weapon. We're going to choose to reload this gun for sure. We're going to reload the gun and we are going to do 2 burst attacks with +1 damage. So we're going to do 2 burst attacks, and what we're going to attack is we are going to attack the Scrapper Raider. This is the first time we have focused on him in particular. You have probably seen him in other shots, but not close up. He has 16 health, so I gave him his 16 health right here. There's a 10 and a 20 and so on and so forth. So you could actually get up to 29 health on these individuals. He does have, now notice this one, he's able to attack just like the other ones did by drawing a yellow card and then doing +1 damage along with what the card does at up to 7 range. He has different charge attacks, Toxin Assault, that sounds absolutely terrible. He also has a Take Cover, and he's got a Wild Shooting. He can advance 3 and just make 2 attacks at +1 damage of range 5. This guy's Bad News City. We gotta try to take this guy out. We're gonna take him out now. We're gonna do a lot of damage to him. We're gonna do 16 damage. Good news for us, he does not have any armor, so I'm gonna do my burst attack. The first one is going to do a total of 3 plus 2 is 5 damage. I am going to discard a card because of my burst. We have discarded a good, I guess, a decent card. So we've done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 damage to him, and then I get to burst again for 2 and what? Oh, it's a pulse. Nope, 2, 3 damage and 4 damage, and then we're going to discard a card, which is our miss card. So that's good. Now, sadly, I went through that entire thing with my ultimate. I reloaded, and then I pretty much shot everything. So we did a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 damage. Wow, we did 10 damage in one shot. That's so good. That brings him down to 6 health. Wow, we did 10 damage in one shot. That was out of control. Okay, and he still has his actions to perform. What I'm going to do is I am going to use my support tactics card to reload my weapon. So now notice, with this one right here, if I would have drawn this during my attack, I would have missed the entire attack, which would have been absolutely terrible. We're going to reload this gun, and then we're going to do a double attack again with this, with our last action, giving myself one more threat, which means I'll be able to gain one. I'm almost to the very top of my resolve list, which means I'm almost at the top of the list and thing that makes it super bad and I can get super dead. So we're going to place that last one there. We're going to shuffle up our ammo cards here, and hopefully things go good for us. This could be really bad, but we'll see how it goes. I am going to have those ready to go, and I'm going to do a double burst action again. But this time I'm going to target this scrapper right there. So let's see how we do. I've got, well, nope, this entire thing misses. So I'm going to do a burst, and this entire attack misses, so I don't do any damage there, and I discard all that. And then I do 1 and 2 and discard that, so I did 2 damage to him. That was absolutely terrible. Scrapper 2 takes 2 damage. That was just the opposite of 10 damage I did last time. I was actually hoping to take them out before they activated, because they're going to activate and attack him. And if I could have killed one of them, I only would have had to worry about one attack, and then she could have came in and maybe took out the boss. But alas, that did not happen. So if we look here, we're going to see what they're going to do. The yellow guys are going to do their special attack, so let's quickly take a look. So their special attack is they are going to heal 2, so they heal the damage I did to them, back up to 8. And then they are going to attack with the yellow card, giving a suppression card, and also it's at a range of 6, so this is really bad. The Vanguard is the one with the highest threat, so it's going to be attacked. The first attack that's going to happen is this one. Oh, it's a miss. I love it. That's fantastic. So that one missed. I do not even gain a suppression card because I didn't take any damage. So that one missed. That's awesome. Now I'll draw the next one. The next one is a hit to my legs. So we're going to take 1 damage to my legs. I don't have any defense tokens this time. Also, I'm going to gain a suppression card because of that. That's absolutely brutal. I'm going to put that right there. That's the end of that. Now also I want to mention there's numbers on these hit location or these enemy cards. This is going to be used during the campaign for space combat. There actually is going to be a whole exploration book in this that has to do with space exploration and combat in space, and these cards are going to be used for that as well, and these numbers are going to have something to do with that part of the campaign, which is, so there's cards do have multi-functions for different parts of the game. Now we're going to bust in, and like I said before, she'll be able to get in, and after I did all the move counting to figure out exactly where she would get, she would be able to move to about here, only using 1 action. And now that that's done, she can perform her other 2 actions that she has. So from here, she is going to perform her Ace's High maneuver. She's going to reload a weapon, move 3 with flight, then she's going to do a pulse or burst with +1 damage, and inflict jam on something if she wishes to. So she's actually going to move 1, 2, 3, I guess, to right here, and that way she can move, because she's doing flight, she gets to, well, she ignores allies anyway, but 1, 2, 3, I guess that's the best place she can go. That'll be fine. At this point, she is then going, I get to reload a weapon. I have a pistol with only 1 bullet left, and the 1 bullet left I know is a 1, so we don't like that. We're going to shuffle this deck back up, give it a good old shuffle here, and set it to the side. Now at that point, I get to use a pulse action or a burst action with +1 damage, and then I get to inflict jam on that particular enemy. And let's make it this guy right here. We're going to shoot him real good. We'll fire with a pulse, or sorry, a pulse. So I get to do a direct hit that does 2 damage, super good. And let's see here, it's going to do 2 damage. It also does an extra 1 because I'm 1 space away, so it's done 3 damage, plus the 1 here is 4 damage. I get to flip over another card for this, 4, 5, 6 damage to that particular enemy. He's not dead yet. 6, 7, I did 7 damage. I did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And I inflict jam, but that's okay. I think we're just going to kill him. I'm going to spend 1 of my damage tokens to do 8 damage to that guy. So we're able to take enemy number 1 off the board in 1 shot. Oh, she is so good at damage. Of course, if she draws misses, that's bad news. Now that is going to cost her all of her resolve here. It's going to cost her 4. Actually, I'm doing it the wrong direction. I should have kept this one up. There we go. So we have 4. That doesn't give me any hate, or not hate, but threat. But I do have one more resolve I should have gained because I'm almost at the top. I have 9 right now. So she's going to be right there. She's the most threat person right now. I'm going to spend one of my actions to put Mindset up here, giving myself the ability to inflict precision, because sadly I don't have the other one. I used it to move, which might actually have been better because I could have reloaded my gun for free. At this point, I can do a pulse action for 1, which brings me to the top, which now gives me the this particular token, which is bad. So she has that token, but she does get another +1 damage token. She's going to hit the boss, I guess you could say, with a burst and an, oh no, sorry, with this one, Flash Fire. She's going to attack that free for pulse. That's good enough. She's going to do one of her actions, 2 of her actions. That's 2 actions she's done. 1 to move and 1 to put that out, I guess. This is all free, which is amazing. And then I'm going to do a pulse. So I'm going to flip over 2 cards. I get 1 here, a miss. That's no good. And then I did 2 damage. I did 2 damage to this guy. That's no 2, 3, 4, 5. I can do 5 damage to him with those. I'll do 5 more damage with those tokens right there. That's awesome. That is done really good. So he goes down to 1 health. I think we might get him. Because the last card I have is my last action. It's going to give me another threat, but I'm already at the top, so I can't gain anymore. So I'm going to hit him with a pulse attack again, which should probably kill him. I don't think there's anything that's going to help him. I'm going to do, I did a pulse, so I did 1. And then the other one, I did 4 damage. 5 damage to that guy. He is dead. We were able to remove the boss from the board. And now the only guy left is this guy. I don't think he's going to stand much of a chance. I'm going to say we won this scenario for sure, which is pretty awesome. And having defeated the Butcher, we'll read our victory resolution. As the Butcher falls, the rest of the scavengers turn and flee, leaving you with a hard-earned victory. Your squad makes their way back to the ship with the Butcher as proof of their completed contract. Here we have Soliara. The Butcher's reign of terror is finally over. Let's get out of here before the Radiant Corps Enforcer patrols arrive. They won't take kindly to our little operation. So at this point, we are going to gain 1 colony reputation. If no colonists have died, the players gain an additional 1. So we would actually gain 2 colony reputation, which will help us. It also says each Drift Hunter is going to gain 2 experience, and if the Butcher was captured alive, the team gains 1 additional experience. Mark down the Butcher captured, and if the Butcher was killed, mark down the Butcher was killed. So here it says, Solaria, let's bring the Butcher back to Dran the Vanuth for our payment. We can also rest and restock for our next operation. So at this point, we'll read the afterword. Our aftermath states that the star exploration is unlocked. Locate the Sector Atlas book, which I do not have for this playthrough, and open it to page 1. This is the map of your current star system. Your ship is located in the beta sector in subsectors B4. Locate the card that says B4 and place your ship unit there. If the card has not been turned over to the explored side, do so now. Afterwards, you can begin your exploration phase of the game. Like I said, I don't have any of the components for the exploration phase of this game, which is fine. Do know that this is another part of the game, which is super cool, that you're going to be able to fly around in these ships and get into ship-to-ship combat potentially, and explore the rest of the galaxy. Find your patron Dran on the planet Vanuth to continue the story. Perhaps he will have a payment for you if you manage to take down the Butcher. The planet Vanuth is also conveniently located in subsector B4, so no travel is necessary to visit this location. Now, I do want to talk about a few things that we didn't get to see in this particular playthrough. Some of the things you're going to see is, of course, like I said, there are some melee attack cards that you can get hit with, which we didn't get to see because we killed everybody. You can do 3 damage, removing hate. I mean, direct hits. So, I mean, getting hit with melee attacks are not the best plan here. That's not good. And if they ever start using the heavy attacks, these heavy fire, which would have happened if this guy would have advanced on us and attacked, he would have drawn, he would have only drawn a light attack card. But he does have some heavy attacks in there as well. His heavy fires, I mean, look at these, 4 damage, but you do lose a lot of threat. 3 damage, we get 2 damage here, we get 3 damage. I mean, these are just brutal attacks from these heavy fire cards, which are no good. Hoofda, that would be absolutely disastrous. Also, there are more than just those combat items you found there. We got our chest armor. You could find things like ammo feeder, which gives you, it costs you no actions to reload a gun, and they do have charges, and the amount of charges is the amount of times you can use each of these items. There are probably some in here that have more than 1 charge on them. They've got med kits. So far, everything only has about 1 charge, but they have, well, here's one, 2. Reflex sight. I could use this to aim 1, and it has 2 charges on it, which is pretty neat. We have throw and grenades. So there's all these different one-use items. Suppression, your shots no longer advance the alarm track. So if you're doing stealthy missions, you might want to try to get those. And you're not only going to find these around the world, I believe you're also going to have a chance to buy some of these at some point, because they all have a $dollar cost on them. You got combat helms, you got, look at this thing, spike gauntlets, Ripper Strike, inflict 1 damage to an adjacent enemy. That's pretty good. It gives you 2 health on the arms. That's really good. And it was the next card I could have drawn out, but there were more of those out there. So we have those basic standard items. Then, of course, there's these contraband items. You could get things like a stealth suit. I can cloak, which is good. You can do that's an option in this game, to be able to cloak. You can use boosters, lose 2 chest health to gain an action point back. So these are going to be kind of risk reward type stuff, I think. Haywire, I get, for 1 action I can inflict immobilize on an enemy or something. So there's some really cool cards in the contraband. And then there's even some advanced gear as well. The advanced gear could have things like tactical visor. I get to have extra 2 cards when I draw. That's absolutely amazing. Return 1 skill card from your discard pile to your hand. Oh, that's so good. So like some of these are going to become really good. With advanced weapon, immediately discard this card and draw an advanced weapon instead. And there are an entire deck of cards that are built for advanced weapons. And so just like the item decks, there are legendary, contraband, advanced weapons, and some standard weapons. So you could get some, maybe a better gun. Look at this plasma edge, 1 upgrade slot, and has a plus armor booster. It pierces 1 armor piercing on it. So these are going to, and as you go forward, you're going to be able to upgrade your cards as well, or upgrade your weapons as well. And you can also upgrade with ammo, which is going to be part of the game. This has actually an ideal firing range, as opposed to my other pulse rifle that didn't. There's some blast gauntlets, which look pretty good. Here's a new pistol. This pistol is going to be good. It gets cover piercing, which is going to probably be able to ignore cover if you want to. But again, you can go into advanced weapons here. We have a shotgun. Look at this thing. This thing's out of control. Here's a hand cannon. I have 1 upgrade slot on it. It can overclock. It can cover pierce. So there's a lot of extra things going on in this game as you move forward in it. Even up to the point where there's some of these contraband guns. Wildfire G16. Here's a Witchfire pistol. Look at this thing. This thing's pretty good. So when you pulse, you do draw 1 card and you do 1 damage on top of it. Death Blast. Enemies killed explode, causing 3 damage and precision to all adjacent enemies. Oh my gosh, that's pretty awesome. Oh my god, that looks like a gun, something out of Destiny, like, was it Talon or something? There's a gun in Destiny that had a similar thing like that. And there's even some of these legendary weapons as well. Look at this, the Desperado pistol looks absolutely cool. So there's a lot going on in this game. And like I said, you can even upgrade your ammo deck as well. So you can even get stuff into your ammo deck that's going to be, for example, Spread Blast. 2 damage, you may discard 2 to target 1 additional enemy within 2 spaces of its attack. So, and here's your Overclocked. You're going to be able to put Overclocked in your deck. It gets 3, and after the attack, you have to discard those 2 things. So even the ammo deck is going to upgrade in this game. There's so many cool things that this game is able to do. I can't even, there's a lot of stuff going on, and I love the fact that it all builds on each other. So what we saw is a really basic intro scenario that taught you kind of how to use your combat cards and how to move around and attack enemies. Now, as you go forward in the game, you're, of course, like I said, going to be able to gain new abilities and items moving forward. You saw just the 12 normal cards that you get in your decks, but as you go forward, those again are going to upgrade as well. You're going to be able to get new skills depending on what type of tree you'd like your characters to go down. Now, remember at the beginning of the video, I talked about how you could play solo and you're going to get crew members. So instead of playing playing the Maverick as we did, I could have played with the Vanguard as my main character, and the Maverick could have been a crew member, meaning it would have 9 health and 4 speed. They don't have all the different types of chest armor, head armor, or anything like that. It only has the talons down here with pulse and burst, but it does get actual abilities here called tagging fire and trick shot disarm. So you'd still have those ability cards, but you don't have a whole deck of cards you're having to deal with. You'd track the health on here instead of onto that player board, and as you go forward in the game, you can level up your crew members, giving them more health, more movement, and even more abilities here going forward, but they're not as overwhelming as if you were to try to play through 2 complete characters. And every character does come with a crew member card, and when you play solo, it does recommend that you have one being the captain, and then you have 2 different crew members in your group, meaning that you'd have a total of 3 characters out on the board at one time, which is pretty awesome. And like I said, and then at any time during the campaign, you could switch these out. So say you decided to play the Vanguard and the Maverick as your crew members, but then you wanted to play with the Maverick, you could bring in one of the other characters. Say you were playing as this character right here, your operative shadow agent. Instead of using her as the captain, then you could bring her as the crew member and make her the captain and play her as a full character. So it does give you the option of using whichever characters you want during the game, which is really cool. On top of that, there's going to be there's going to be actual skill checks in this as well while you're going through the campaign that you're going to have to make that is going to determine how the story unfolds around you. And the way you decide on what missions you're going with is also going to cause branching storylines as well, from what I would understand. So the solo mode is in this game, and it's really simplistic, and it's easy to be able to use multiple characters when playing solo. And even playing solo using 2 characters, I didn't have much of a problem. But as you can see, moving forward, you're going to get different gear and different weapons, and you're going to have to decide what kind of trees to go down to build up your skill decks. It could become overwhelming, and moving into this particular crew member situation might be a way to go as you go forward in the game. Also, I did mention that there are also boss battles in this, and here's an example of kind of how a boss battle looks. You're going to have its health track here, and then each of its different areas might have its own health thing. For example, this thing might have a hand thing that you're going to be having. When you totally destroy the hand, you're able to flip that over. Also, it's going to have these different tokens that are going to be placed out here, and when you move a cube across that onto it, you would flip that over and resolve kind of what it is. Oh, this thing's going to charge at you if you do that, if you would have hit it and done that much damage on this. Or if it had taken so many damage, then you cross this particular threshold, and then you would flip this over, and you would have to deal with that. So there's a whole bunch of different things for this particular boss that you would have to deal with. On top of that, depending on the heat, it's going to get harder and harder, or more and more powerful as it goes forward, I'm guessing, as it loses damage. And the amount of health it has is probably going to be based on the character numbers and things of that nature. So a boss battle actually seems really cool in this, because like I said, you're not only just going to be doing damage to it, it's going to be reacting to how you do your damage to it, which is kind of cool. And of course, it has its own set of cards here, which is going to go after the highest threat. It's going to charge. It's going to do its special ability based on the actual enemy card that comes with this as well, which is right here, and it shows you, of course, all the different actions it's going to perform based on the card that you flip over and how much damage it has. It has 12 health equal to the number of players, times the number of players, I mean. It has 3 speed and has 8 armor we have to get through. Now, of course, doing damage to this, and you notice from the back, you're going to be able to do 2 less damage, but it does have an actual facing in this game, and these have giant miniatures that come with them as well as we go forward in the campaign. I'm sure that some of these are going to unlock even more and cool things, but here's the miniature that comes with this particular enemy. And so, like I said, it's going to take up 4 spots on the board, and you'll be able to decide where you're going to attack it based on where you're standing on the board when you're fighting it. But this is the enemy that came with this particular prototype for the boss battles. Now, I won't be doing a boss battle, but I just wanted to show you that they are out there. That's one of the things you can do in this game, is as you move forward, you'll fight these big giant bosses. There's a playthrough of the prototype for Terminus Frontier. This game looks amazing. Oh my gosh, I can highlight this thing. There's a lot of cool things coming for it. One, I really enjoy this ammo system a lot. I think that's a really cool system. This board to track everything, the threat tracker and your squad formation, super easy. I really like this. I like how each one of these has a different thing that is going to help you or hinder you depending on where you put it. Of course, going first, but having more threat is not as good as maybe getting down here and healing yourself, or getting those precision or those +1 damage tokens. Oh my gosh, those are so good. Now, sadly, we never got to see much of the severe or the minor trauma decks affecting our characters. So I'm going to show you a couple more of those. But for example, you get a flesh wound. It's a permanent trauma, which I'd have to deal with. I gain one of these suppression cards, and I'd have to spend 2 of my resolve in order to get rid of them. So I know we saved up all our resolve to be able to do those super special attacks, but if we would have gotten super hurt, I might have had to use some of those in order to get rid of some of these actual traumas here. For example, this here trauma, immediate trauma resolve. Lastly, instead of being eliminated as unbroken, there's a hemorrhage. When played from persistent trauma, lose 2 at this location. When played from your hand, all damage against you inflicts +1 damage this turn. These are actually bad. Now the persistent ones, these I believe you're already dead. These are the ones that immediate trauma instead of being eliminated. See, the ones that say that you're not eliminated, but the ones that have this, that means they are going to carry over into other campaigns or other missions that you're going to have to do. So those are not good. You do not want them. They are bad. This game does come with 4 main characters. The other 2 that we didn't get to play is the Zealot. The Zealot is here. These are some of the action cards that the Zealot gets. He's more based on frontline fighting, but he does also gain a shotgun and a main attack. So he has like a stance. He gets +1 armor all the time. I mean, defense card, prevent 2 damage. I mean, so this guy's really good at getting right up and personal with everybody and fighting. The other character is our operative. We didn't get to see. This one's more of a sniper type character. A lot of the stuff is like she has cards in here that if she moves, she loses some of her stances and things like that. She's going to have a lot of reaction cards that are going to probably help allies from a distance, things of that nature. So that's the other character we didn't see. And I believe there's going to be up to like 7 characters. I don't know if they're all unlocked at the beginning. We'll have to see as the crowdfunding campaign goes forward. There is so much to like for this game that I'm instantly back in this game. I have no reason not to. This is super fun. I'm excited to see what the campaign holds. There's space battles, there's going to be skill checks, there's going to be a whole campaign that goes along with it. This is going to be super fun. So there you have it. That is Terminus Frontier, the playthrough. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell symbol so you know when more content comes out. Also, if you're interested in seeing more Terminus Frontier, I know Steve over at Co-op Guild is going to be doing a playthrough as well. Hopefully he'll be doing mission 3 since that's the stealth mission, or is it mission 2? One of them. I know there's a stealth mission. I know he's a big fan. So hopefully you can see how those mechanics work when you check out his playthrough of this game. When this game reaches its crowdfunding platform, I'll make sure to put a link to it in the description of this video. There you can decide to back it. You could learn more about it. You could even ask the designer some questions there. Of course, you can also put comments in the comment section. I would love to hear from everyone. They may be able to answer questions in the comment section of this video as well. Terminus Frontier is going to be an amazing game. I hope that you have a chance to back this game and see what it's all about. Also, if you're interested in supporting the channel, please check out the Patreon link. It's in the description of this video. Those that have joined the Patreon are shown here on the screen. Thank you so much for your patronage. Those that have joined the Patreon do get some special perks. As one, they do get to watch Colin and my playthroughs, usually about a day or 2 ahead of time. Also, they get a chance to influence the game as well. They'll be able to pick characters for our games moving forward. This particular one, I decided to use the 2 characters I did because they showed off of what they were able to do, but normally I would encourage the Patreons to help decide who is going to be playing in our game. So there you have it. I hope you enjoyed the playthrough of Terminus Frontier. If you're excited to see what Colin and I have coming up next, then I need you to meet me at the table.